Following on from the popular Best and Favourite Racehorse series in TDN America, the team who make up TDN Europe would like to share with you who they think the best racehorses are. First up is Daithi Harvey in Ireland.
Choosing my favourite racehorse was no easy task, given I've been a fan of the sport for over 30 years now. I guess the first horse to capture my imagination was a steeplechaser called Hill back in the late 1980s. He was as fragile as he was talented, but in my eyes he was the real deal, and he certainly helped get me hooked on the sport. In more recent years, however, he was knocked off my top of my list by the mighty Sea to Stars. Perfect model of a racehorse in my opinion. Looking back on his flawless 3-year-old campaign in 2009, one of the many things that sticks in my mind is Mick Cannan's comment to John Ox in the aftermath of his Epsom Derby win. Cannan saying, "This could be one of the all-time greats." And I guess his subsequent displays certainly proved that theory correct.
Daithi, I have to agree with you. I think Sea to Stars is absolutely one of the best we've ever seen. His pedigree is enviable. He is the most gorgeous horse to look at. I never got to see him in the flesh racing, but I think you did.
The first time I saw Sea to Stars in the flesh was in the Irish Champion Stakes at Leopardstown. And I guess it was the first time also that a lot of Irish people had seen the horse, given it was his first start in Ireland since his 2-year-old days. The home team then gave him a hero's welcome on the way back into the parade ring after the race, and I guess they realised they were in the presence of greatness that day. I was also fortunate enough to be in Longchamp for Sea to Stars' swan song in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, and in my opinion he put up a career best effort that afternoon. Since retiring to Giltown Stud, Sea to Stars has really excelled in his second career as a stallion, siring numerous classic winners. And to me that's no real surprise given his credentials, his race record, his pedigree, his physique, his looks, his conformation, his temperament. He really is the full package and ticks every box, as the experts say.
I would definitely have to agree with Daithi here. I feel that Sea to Stars is the best racehorse I've ever seen in person. However, I'm going to speak about my favorite racehorse is instead his daughter, Sea of Class. She developed into an Irish Oaks and Yorkshire Oaks winner in 2018. At the end of her 3-year-old season, she had developed to the point that she gave even Enable a run for her money in the Arc. Her jockey, James Doyle, had to weave through the entire field, and she was up the stride after the wire. Sometimes I rewatch that, and I think, well, maybe this time she'll get there, and she just didn't quite get there that day.
It's probably a bit obvious, but it's very hard for me to look beyond Frankel as the best racehorse that I've ever seen. A time form rating of 147, 14 runs, 14 wins. He really was just a winning machine. Watching Frankel run was like nothing that I'd ever seen before. And the fact that he was trained by another legend in Sir Henry Cecil, that just added to his overall story. Picking Frankel's best race? Very, very hard to say. His Royal Lodge, his 2000 Guineas, his Juddmonte International, they were all breathtaking. Surely you can't argue with that, Kelsey.
Gary, I'm not going to argue with you that Frankel is the greatest racehorse that Europe has ever seen, but I am going to pick a different race as his best race, and that was the 2012 Queen Anne Stakes at Royal Ascot, where he won by 11 lengths. And that was actually the very first race that I ever saw in person at Royal Ascot, so that's something that's going to burn bright in the memory for a very long time.
It's hard to disagree with Gary and Daithi because in Frankel and Sea to Stars we've certainly seen two absolute champions this century in flat racing, but I'm going to go back a little bit further to the horse who dragged me from being a jumps fanatic into loving flat racing, and that was Montjeu. To me, Montjeu had everything that you'd look for in a top-class racehorse. He had the poise, the swagger, a brilliant turn of foot, and he was an absolutely beautiful animal as well. He was a brilliant 3-year-old, winning the Irish Derby, Prix du Jockey Club when it was still at the proper Derby distance, and of course the Arc. I think though we go to his 4-year-old career to really see his all-time great performance, which came in the King George. The commentator says as he crosses the line, Montjeu treated them with contempt, and he certainly did. It was the easiest win I've ever seen in my life. Montjeu retired to Coolmore Stud, and as soon as his first crop turned 3, we really started to see his potential as a stallion. He had the 1-2 in both the Derby and the Irish Derby, with 4 different horses: Motivator, Walk in the Park, Hurricane Run and Scorpion. Scorpion went on to win the St Leger, and Hurricane Run won the Arc. And as an old jumping fan, I was very pleased to see Montjeu sire one of the best hurdlers of the modern era, Hurricane Fly.
This has been a look at some of the greatest racehorses in the minds of Team TDN Europe.